Well, hi. It's Grandpa Ricky this morning. I think it's April the 2nd. Maybe it's April the 3rd. I know it's Thursday. I woke up this morning and I was filled with gratitude for all the brave people who are on the front lines and who are exposing themselves to help other people. I was thinking about my friend Hero and Marie and Jesse and Nate T and Nate B and John, Victoria, Nancy, and all my friends at all the stores that are still open. I was so appreciative, and last night I did what I usually do, and that's before I go to bed, I go to these news streams that I have on my phone, and I just saw how all the suffering in New York City, people dying, being sick, being scared, and I thought about the people who are alone and people who are dying alone. The people who are afraid of dying, like I'm afraid of dying. And I was just filled with gratitude. I still am, and I do that at night so that I take the suffering in, and I call in all my spirit guides, and then I go to sleep. Or if it's too disturbing, I just tell myself to rest, and I hold the suffering, and I do all these practices like Tonglen and running the energy into the earth and remembering the beautiful places I've been and the beautiful people I've been with. And beautiful here means just good energy people, good energy places with a lot of Waya, and times that I've been really expanded in my consciousness and in my full largesse. And I bring those feelings into my body. And then my unconscious and my angels and my pillow fairies, they help me process it so that I wake up in the morning with a fresh perspective, or a bit fresher. And sometimes it's so awful I've got to wake up again and look at something on my phone or think about something that gives me enough good energy that I can go to sleep. And yesterday I was doing a lot of chores and remembering things that I hadn't finished, didn't feel good enough. You know, when I was younger, well, even now, I'm a phony, you know, I'm a fake. I'm pretending to look like I've got my shit together. And it's good to know that you're pretending, that you've got your shit together, because when you're just pretending, and that's all you think you are, who you're pretending, or who I'm pretending to be, then I'm not so sensitive. And I've done some incredibly insensitive things with my father, with different people I've met. And it was hard this morning because I was thinking about people that I was pretending because I was so frightened. And, you know, one fella, he committed suicide um, because I did the wrong thing when he came to work drunk. Repeatedly. He'd come to work and I'd send him home and cover his class until the supply teacher came. And then, one day I said, hey, you can't come to work anymore. But what I didn't do was I didn't say, hey, just take some time off. I'll lie to cover you or whatever. But I didn't do that. And he was so upset, and he had a large number of kids, and he'd struggled to become a teacher and overcoming all kinds of problems. And he went out and killed himself. And I really felt this morning like it was hard. But I lit a candle in my little morning bonfire, and I meditated, and I looked at the sacred things around me. I sleep in a way where my cell phone's not near me, and my instruments are there, and my bell that represents the energy of the East, and some bones that remind me of the West, the end of the long red road. And there's my rattle, and that reminds me to have a strong back, to bring my power into my life. And there was the drum, and that reminded me about the South. And I played them one after the other. The drum reminds me about living and dancing and trancing and just kind of getting away from my worries and things and shaking off the tough energy. And I said thank you to all that is. And I have a little container of earth, and I just touched the earth just to remind me, of a glass of water, remind me of water. And I breathed really deeply. That reminded me about the air. And I was glad I was alive one more day. And I went ahead into the future, into my death, and then into my birth as a spirit. That was quite a morning. And today I want to tell you about a movie that's affecting me. I'm watching the series for the second time. This is a movie that, boy, I don't like half of it. It's violent and ugly and awful, really upsetting. And it calls up my shadows, including some shadows I didn't know I had. And in this movie, it also brings up what I love. And the light and the sparkle and love and human, growth of consciousness, And my teacher, Bob Henry, taught me how liberating it is to feel deeply the things that cause me to not like something, to like if I find that I'm disgusted by something, then what I do is I just stop if I can, or maybe later I remember to do it, and I just go back into my history, into my life, into my ancestors' life. And I find whatever it is or whatever the things were that cause me to contract, to, not like some awful things, And then Tav Sparks, who's a really great guy, wrote a book, I think it was called The 13th Step. And the Hazelton Lanes people published it, and then they buried it because he was talking about the next step after the 12 steps. And then he wrote another one, I forget what it was called, and it was basically how to watch a movie. And it's this idea of you watch the movie and you let it touch you. You look at the picture and you let it touch you. What you like, what you don't like, how that feels in your body. And you just feel it until something shifts. Maybe you think about a rabbit or something else, or maybe you're just sitting there with snot running out of your nose and tears running down your cheeks and your belly's all churning and there's all this blocked energy releasing itself. And then Stan Groff taught me a lot of stuff. He used to, I was in training with him for, I think, 5 years, learning about holotropic breathwork. And he would show us these slides and play music to us that was really upsetting. Oh my God, he'd show you stuff and he'd say, you gotta get to the point where you can hold all this awfulness and all this goodness without judgments, without running away from it, without being in love with it, Like getting to neutral with what you like and what you don't like. It was a very liberating experience, and that presentation would go on for hours and hours, and people would throw up and get disgusted and stamp off, and the idea was just to stay with it, stay with the feelings. It was great training, and I found that to be really helpful, and I suggest that you do that, or join me in this experiment that I'd like to do. And this movie is a movie. It's made in Hungary or Austria, and I think the language is German, but I don't know. There's some of the movie is in Hebrew, and they have English subtitles, so I have to stop the movie and back it up so I can read whatever the translation was. And I'm now watching it for the second time. And I'm noticing all kinds of stuff I didn't notice before because it was like so. And parts of it are incredibly beautiful, like, oh my God. And then the next scene is like, and so I've been telling pals about it and asking them to watch it a couple of times. And then to let me know when they've watched it so we can talk about it. We can say, well, this part really got me and this part didn't get me, and I like this part. And that comes from my friend Franny Dinson. I was in Chicago once visiting her, and she was learning holotropic breathwork stuff. She was a great therapist. And she would organize groups of people, and I would drive from Toronto, and she and I would we'd be the facilitators in these holotropic breath workshops. And after the workshop one time, she took me to her film club. And I'd love to start a film club, and I hope you start a film club. And the idea was that everybody in the club watched the movie at least twice, whatever movie they were discussing. And then they threw some money in for every meeting. I think it was once a month or every 2 months or something. And they hired the head of the film department at the time from Northwestern University. And the movie that I went to watch or to talk about was called Eyes Wide Shut. And it was produced or directed or something by this guy Kubrick. And it starred Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise and Sidney Pollack, I think his name was. And the professor had watched the movie 25 times. And he would ask questions, or people would ask him questions. And he noticed things like in the movie, in one scene, the street numbers on a street scene were all consecutive. Like it was on the north side of the street, we'll say, and all the numbers were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And most streets, it's like, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 1, 3, 5, etc. And then he would say, "What do you think that means?" And it was great. It was like 3 hours, and there was potluck food that everybody brought. It was a wonderful thing. And of course, because in those days I was too busy for everything. And the nice thing about being busy is Robert McIntyre, my teacher, pointed out to me. He said, when you're going crazy and you've got so many things to do and you're just rushing, he said, enjoy it, because you're going to have more memories than anybody you know. And that's true. Now that I'm old, all these memories are coming back. And the slower I go and lying in bed at night and just not doing anything or trying to do anything, then these memories come, and I'm having a great time with them, and they're making me wiser. And the funny thing is, it's giving me more energy. Like I wake up in the morning like, bring it on, what's up today? And makes me grateful. And the movie, by the way, it's called Freud. The German or Austrian or Hungarian, I don't know. And it's on Netflix, and it's an episodic movie. And Sigmund Freud is like the anti-hero. He's imperfect. He messes up. He's confused. He's he's human. And my son is in the film business, and he taught me. He said, movies about anti-heroes, not superheroes, but anti-heroes, humans, like ordinary people, are going to become more popular. So that's this morning's rift. I'm cold now, and I'm going to go in and do some grooming and clean myself up, try to. And thank you for watching this movie. It gives me a purpose. Good to have a project. Good to share your gifts or your experiences or your memories. I hope you find them useful, and I hope they inspire you to make your own videos or go out in the park and just turn on some music and dance. Don't worry about what people think of you, but just dance for the love of dancing. Like my friend Dr. Deb, she went in the hospital to have a double mastectomy and reconstruction. And that's pretty terrifying. And what Dr. Deb did was she asked just before the operation, she said, "May I dance?" And everybody was in their, bunny suits and masked up and everything. And I know another Dr. Deborah. She's got a YouTube channel. Burning Man, Dr. Deb. But this is Dr. Deb. I don't know. Maybe she's an obstetrician or something. Well, she's probably working on a COVID crew. Anyway, so she got up and she turned on some music and she started to dance. And she was dancing and dancing, and then pretty soon all the doctors and nurses started dancing too. And somebody made a video of it. And it millions of people have seen it. And it just inspired me. It was like, oh, thank you, Deb. Thank you for dancing out and shaking it off like a dog shaking off water. So that's this morning's ramble. I hope you found it useful, and I do hope you form your own little film club. Because one of the things about finding out your shadows and finding out your angels, your inner angels, is that you don't want to do that stuff alone. No. You get some buddies to listen to you, and when you talk about it and you try to communicate to them, it lifts all of the charges of intense love and intense fear and anger, and it lifts that up into your brain, and it makes it easier to deal with. It calms down. And then, if it gets really bad, go and have a hot shower and then turn the cold water on as long as you can. And then turn it back to hot and back to cold and back to cold. And you'll find maybe, like I did, or do, is that my body prefers the cold water. And I stand that until I'm just like shivering like crazy. And I found out recently that builds my immune system. And then I take deep breaths, breathe in through my nose and hold my breath, and then breathe out as fully as I can, and then breathe it. And so my belly comes out, my chest comes up and out in all directions. I get really big and full of air. And that makes my body alkaline, and COVID doesn't like alkaline, apparently. It builds my immune system, and it helps me not get frightened. Because, I'm trying to avoid getting COVID, but I'm also trying to build my body up any way I can, so I'm as strong as I can. So when I get it, if I get it, I'll be able to kind of say, okay, let's see if we can live through this. Because I want to live till I'm 100, at least. So thanks for watching this morning's ramble, and I hope you have a day with some enjoyments, looking around for what you like, even though it may be like inside a septic tank. Maybe there's something in there you can find that you like, and focus on that, because it's all about focus. It's shining your psychic flashlight on what you like, and then you can go, whoa, I don't like this, and back to what you like, and get the good energy from that, and then, whoa. So please make your videos, or your dances, or bring your gifts out for yourself and for other people. Don't do anything that's pretending and you're doing it so you'll look good, but do it because you love it, okay? I'm filled with love for all the people who are watching this, and thanks. And especially to all the people putting their lives at risk to help other people. I hope that, I think I've got a pal who's giving rooms in his hotel to to first responders so they don't have to take the virus back to their families. And also somebody else I heard donated money to restaurants to prepare meals for the first responders. That helped the restaurants support their staff, you know. Anyway, these times are bringing us together because we're all suffering. We're all frightened. And we're all starting to remember that, my God, I am my brother and sister's keepers. And just giving whatever we can so somebody else can get through. So thanks a lot.